episode 177 of Above Ground Podcast.
Escape from within.
Disclaimer. The hosts of this podcast, Will Foley and TPP, are not medical professionals, and this is not medical advice. Both Will and TPP have first-hand experience with mental illness. They have their own perspective and own thoughts on mental health challenges. Above Ground Podcast was birthed to help those who struggle with their mental health through honest dialogue. By speaking openly and sharing tools, they foster connection. By fostering connection, they convey hope. With connection and hope, we can continue to increase awareness. These conversations aim to break down the walls while building stronger foundations for positive mental health. This is Above Ground Podcast.
Coming at you live with real conversations about mental health from the perspective. It's time for Above Ground Podcast. Now your hosts, TPP and Will Foley.
Hello, everybody.
What's up?
Welcome back to another episode of Above Ground Podcast.
Above Ground Podcast, because you can't serve below.
No, you cannot.
That's right. You know who that is. You down with TPP?
Yep, you know me.
Wow. Timmy's all styling and profiling over there. Woo! Doing the old Ric Flair.
Ric Flair. In
Timmy's
the
got
studio,
his
back in Hallam Halls.
Absolutely back in Hallam Halls, because you never underestimate the power of you.
That's right.
Timmy, never underestimate the power of TPP. And I'm not talking about toilet paper.
Should
parties.
be out next week. Because today's, what's today, November 2nd?
November 2nd.
Yeah, so around the 11th, 11/11.
All right. See, we got a date finally. I haven't been able to push a date because...
That's what I'm saying for now, so...
Well, then it is.
Seems pretty good with
And
it.
so it is.
If anybody cares, that's what it is.
And so it That's right. Timmy, what are we talking about tonight, man?
The F word. Feelings.
Feelings. Oh,
Feelings
fuck.
and emotions and embracing what it means to be human. All that good stuff.
Do we really? Do we really have to embrace?
I don't know. Do you? Do you tell me? Why don't we ask?
No, we do. I guess we need to
Do you
embrace
have to embrace what it means to be human? I think, here, let me say this. Do you have to? No. Does it make life a little bit better, more easier to manage? Yes.
All right. I'll give
For
you
me,
that.
it's one of the things that I use as a reminder for myself. Like, if I'm like, damn, if I screw this up, do this, and like I'm just stressed and overwhelmed, and I'm like, you know what? I'm only human. I can't do all these things at once, and I'll build the bridge, but I have to do one stone at a time.
I'm learning these same things too. But I will say I'm a lot further along than I give myself credit for sometimes on being able to reframe now.
Nice. Golf clap for Will Foley, ladies and gentlemen.
That's right. That's right. I just got a hole in one. No, just kidding.
Well, no, I think we do need to celebrate those small victories.
Absolutely, man. We need to celebrate the little victories. Even my therapist told me that.
Yeah.
That you need to celebrate.
Sometimes being human, life moves. And, the world's not going to slow down for you, so you have to kind of slow down and make time for it, for you and those victories. And.
Well, as Paul said, the world ain't slowing down, and the world's definitely not slowing down. It's getting way faster.
It's true.
And I think we get inundated with more stuff daily to affect our feelings and emotions and affect our views of ourselves.
Mm. So let me ask you another question, because we asked, do you have to embrace being human? Do you have to feel it to heal it?
I believe you do. I believe that we don't like to feel things, which is why we obviously have the issues that we have.
Sure.
Myself included. I'm not out of that realm to say, yes, do I have issues? Yes. I like to numb out just like everybody else, sometimes too much. However, I do spend more time trying to be recollective and try to break through to the treasure from all the junk that's there.
Let's search for treasure.
That's all right. It's treasure. Let's search for it.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Because the wreckage is there. But as we know, wreckages and scuba diving are fun things to go dive around and take pictures of. So it's only
Well,
a wreckage when it first happens.
And I think by feeling it, you become more aware of it and more aware of your inner churning. So by that, you can kind of, even put a label on it, what you're feeling, which also...
Well, I think that's a big part of it. I think we talk about, and you talk about this a lot, and I talk about this a lot, writing, journaling. Mm-hmm. Journaling as a method of being able to break through the sludge, to break it through and to start filtering it out. And feeling it and actually being able to name the feelings. And that's why I have my handy dandy little emotions.
He talks about it every week.
I do talk about it every week because there are so many different ways to describe some of the same emotions.
Why don't you actually, pick one and kind of go through it. So, if we have any listeners that listen, then they will know what you're talking about.
So the list of emotions that I'm talking about that I mention a lot and I share in the show notes is Byron Katie's list of emotions from her website, thework.com. She wrote a book, I believe it's called Loving What Is. I believe that's the title of the book. And in that book, she describes how we have to name it to tame it. And that's part of her whole program is asking yourself, is it true? Are these questions that, or are these emotions you're feeling and feelings you're feeling, are they actually accurate, true? Do they really mean what you think that they mean?
Right. Because I think a lot of times emotions, depending on the state and depending on how the emotion makes us feel and how our body reacts to that emotion, I think a lot of times they can be illogical.
Absolutely. Now, Timmy asked me to take something off the list. So here we go.
Yeah, go ahead.
So we take confusion, right? We think confused. We're confused. Okay, we're confused. But is it really that we're confused? Is that confusion really just because we feel alone or we feel fatigued? Or do we just feel weak? And weak being either weak,
like burnout,
like burned out weak.
Yeah.
And another thing also is just like craving. Because craving on our list of emotions is another one of those words that comes up under helpless. Because most of the time, we've talked about this, it's never the first emotion that we're feeling. Yes.
Will's always peeling back that onion.
I am, just because like anger has been such a visceral emotion for me that I've always gone to anger. Always. And I always think I'm pissed. But it's not.
Right.
But once I started to develop the language to say how I feel and actually have the ability and the strength to say how you feel,
because that's a great word.
Because that's something. Yeah, I think it. And I think it comes with practice.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't come easy.
No. Being able to pause and not have that emotional reaction, and to have that split second and maybe respond or just not say anything is pure fucking strength.
Well, a response is not saying anything. A reaction is to say something immediately that comes to your mind.
Right.
And we'll get further into that over the next year or two with response and reaction and stuff. But the thing is that we get stuck in these first level emotions. Like the same thing with like even positive emotions. Oh, I'm so happy. But why are you happy? Like, is it happiness, or are you feeling something
excited,
completely different? You might be feeling excited.
Or you could be just feeling not shitty.
That's true. Like happy, I think happy, like we talk about the continuum. We talk about the scale, man. There's illness to wellness, happiness to sadness. That scale comes pretty fast, and that needle can shift really quickly depending on how you wake up in the morning, what you've shoved in your body, what you've shoved into your, what you have or haven't shoved into your mind, or any of that stuff.
Do you think? Let me just interrupt you for a second. Do you think that? Well, because I know I do. I'm pretty sure you do. We kind of dodge uncomfortable feelings, but. And when I'm listening to you talk right now, I'm like uncomfortable feelings doesn't necessarily have to be negative feelings either. They could be that feeling of happiness. And I've heard Will say this before, is like everything's going right, and he's like almost scared that it's going right.
Oh, and
so it could be having things turn out okay and being happy in a moment could also be an uncomfortable feeling for some.
Well, let's do this in real time. I see it in you. I see it in you currently.
Yeah, absolutely.
Obvious, and there's a lot of tentacles going on at the same time, and we've talked about that yin and yang thing, right?
Yep.
Like we
Push,
have
pull.
to have it's the push pull, it's the up down. You have to have the up to have the down, just like you have to have the down to have the up. And you may be experiencing some great things, but you know what? You're experiencing some really shitty things on the other end of it.
Yep.
Because that is the balance, and that is a universal law.
It is.
It is a universal law. You can't fight that one.
It is.
You
You're
can't
right.
fight that one. You're laughing over here.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
We have a special guest who is not on mic in studio, and she's looking at us with this look of disdain. Why are you looking at me?
She's looking at us with a look of disclaimer.
That's a disclaimer. That's right. That's right. We have a new disclaimer. Ooh, and a new voice.
You know what? If you don't mind, Will, there's a little section of my book I'd like to read because it kind of, excuse me, pertains to what we're talking about. So, bad or negative thoughts does not always equate to a bad or negative person. It is what we do with those thoughts and how we act on them that is most important. If it helps, stop categorizing your thoughts into good or bad. It can help you to judge them less. Work towards seeing your thoughts and emotions as indicators that can possibly lead you to a better understanding. You can also change the words good and bad by substituting the words helpful and unhelpful. By being aware of them, you can recognize how many times we suffer over one issue problem.
Yeah.
You know, I think that kind of just can help the process of, you know what I mean? Little tips that can help with the process of dealing with, like, you know, if you're dealing with something uncomfortable, like, and you say to yourself, this is negative, I hate this feeling, like, you're just adding onto it.
Absolutely. But we have to be really thoughtful about this, because the thing is with emotions, when we're talking, we're kind of loosely talking about emotions of people who do have a fairly good handle of being able to redirect emotions. There are people, though, that with severe persistent mental illnesses, that emotions are very hard to control.
Oh,
impulsivity and just
believe
that.
Me, I know.
that back and forth of like something that would not set me off, like something being out of place, may actually cause somebody to have a complete meltdown because they don't know, they don't have the ability, or haven't, I shouldn't say they don't have the ability, they just haven't developed the ability enough to redirect themselves. Yep. And unfortunately, though, I think there's a lot of things that play into that too, but that's for a different conversation, I think.
Do you think that the more we not only identify them, but the more we sit with our feelings and emotions, that it's almost like practicing sitting with them is practicing being able to handle them in a better manner? Do you think?
I think it can be, but again, you can just sit there and what are you actually doing? Because again, like we talk about meditation. Right. Meditation is sitting, you're technically not doing anything, but you really are. Because in meditation, you're concentrating.
Well,
I think that.
Well, I'm saying like sit, and I guess I'm using the term sitting with or sitting through the uncomfortable feelings as I'll say accepting or allowing them to, you know.
I think you have to allow them and accept them, but how do you integrate that acceptance?
Sure. I think
because you can accept anything and not have it actually affect you and intend
and by
to
accepting,
do anything.
You're not saying like everything's good and I agree with this. You're just you're looking at it for what it is. You're you're stripping it down to the bare facts of what it is.
Yes. Yeah. Well, yeah.
And you're accepting it. Like, this is what it is, and I'm accepting this for what it is. I may not like what this is.
Yeah, you don't have to like it.
Right.
You don't have to be happy about it.
This is not what I want, but I'm accepting it. And that alone, just accepting it alone, is going to decrease some suffering.
It can. It can.
Absolutely can, yeah.
But I do think that there's action involved in that.
Sure.
I don't think just accepting anything is enough.
It may not be enough, but it definitely does something.
But
I'm
you
saying
have
to start
work
small.
through. Right, but you have to work through it too.
Sure.
So how do you work through it?
Well, one step at a time, though, also. If you want to talk about people that have severe mental illness, that's a step in the right direction. Like, I'm not saying, like, you need to, do these 3 steps and, like, work on this today. But one thing you can work on is accepting.
Yeah.
And as you do that, and if things decrease, that will free up a little bit more energy and space to push it to the next
Absolutely.
step.
Absolutely. And accepting is a huge step because there's a lot of people that can't accept diagnosis, can't accept can't accept a lot of things. And they need to be able to get to the level that they can, but what happens if they don't? And I mean, again, where does that's the problem with and I'll say this, that's part of the problem with self-help. That's the part of the problem with help in general, is that help only gets you so far. You need to be able to push the cart the rest of the way.
Oh, sure. That's why I actually...
And getting the cart to actually...
It's funny you say that.
Accepting that there's a cart there is something completely different.
I mentioned in the book that I don't look at it as like the regular old self-help book. I would call it more of a help yourself book, because you can read these things and learn how to kind of take these small incremental steps and put them into action.
You can.
Yeah.
But I will say, and I'm the perfect person for this. I've bought 1 million books. Half of them are sitting on my shelf on
But
red.
I also say there's no book, there's no person.
No, there's nothing.
Nothing that's going to make you do.
No, there's nothing that's going to make you do anything
you want to
unless
change.
you're there.
But I'm talking more in the lines of people that, like most people, I think, that are buying a self-help book or books along in that genre are looking to, better themselves.
Yeah, I think so too. I think self-improvement is probably
so better. That's why I'm kind of like, I'm kind of usually referring more to that kind of audience, I guess you would say.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. So the trick is, I think, for me, the trick is where I get stuck is, yes, I'm learning to sit with the emotion, accept it, recognize it for what it is. I mean, I can even like give it a high five some days, and then they like see you later. But some days, that part right there is I get stuck in that emotion.
Well, do you? So because I've noticed this for myself, and I noticed this in you also too, because I do notice that when we talk about certain things, like yes, we all have a certain amount of capacity that we can handle something at any given moment.
Yeah.
But I do notice that there's an avoidance too at times. Like we can say, oh, I've already had enough. But I think sometimes that plays into avoidance too, where people don't want to do anything about it.
That's a tricky thing though. I don't say that I won't. For my opinion on that is, I don't know if it's considered judgment. I wouldn't say that for somebody. Like, because I know that I've said to people, like, I've had enough, like, I need a break, I'm overwhelmed. And
that's one thing.
And it's not like, I don't know if people think because I'm involved in what I'm involved in, they think I can, just handle this stuff because I can talk about it.
Well, at some point, though, you got to develop even I know this. Like, you got to develop a deeper capacity.
Yeah, so, but you can't do it in the moment, is what I'm saying. You're telling,
no, you can't. You can't do it in the moment. But here's the thing: in this stuff, where else are you going to do it, dude? You can't sit in your mirror and do this. Like, this has to be done in real time.
You kind of can. I think
some stuff you can. Some stuff you can. Absolutely, you can sit and be and sit and meditate on a problem. But meditating on that problem again without some sort of actionable step.
But it goes back to what you were just said like a couple minutes ago. Depends on where you are in the day. Like I've noticed for myself, like I have a little bit of a deeper
I was going to want
capacity. But
do you notice it in the morning or in the evening?
If I have like 10 things going on at once, I don't. I'm done. Like I am irritable at that second. Like I can handle. You know what I mean? I'm juggling. Yeah. I can juggle 4 balls. 5, I'm like, 6, oh, it's getting hairy. And I'm like, don't give me any more. And like someone just throws me 2 more. I can't. I just can't do it. I'm not at that level right now. So it's not avoidance for me. I'm just
I don't
like,
really honestly think that that any of us are able to juggle 10.
Maybe.
I don't. I don't because I think it's bullshit. I think anybody who says that they can is full of shit, and I think that they're in denial of their own like they're not. There's no humility there at all. Because the thing is that what working in this space is taught me is that the biggest thing you need to realize is you need to know what you don't fucking know. And we have way too many people in this planet now who have a YouTube channel who think they know everything, and they don't know shit.
Yeah,
and
for sure. But
and they don't even know themselves.
No,
you know what I mean?
But that's not for. I mean, don't get me wrong. Do I get hung up on that some days? Sure, but it's not for us to. You know what I mean?
I know, but I'm just saying. Like you can be aware of anything, man, but that doesn't mean that doesn't mean that you're gonna fix it. That doesn't mean that you're not avoiding.
It's like picking up a book. I'm going to read this. And I read the first chapter and then I put it away. That's fine. So you did read some of it, but you have to pick it up again and continue to read. Yeah, it's the same thing.
It's the constant repetitive. Right. It's the building of the muscle. And
I guess you can look at it that way, sure.
It is, because we're not taught this in school.
No.
So how else are you going to develop it?
I know.
Unless you were, and I got to say, most of what I see on the outside are some of us trying to catch up to this stuff now.
Yeah.
And then there's still people who don't even want to catch up to it because it would upset the apple cart. Right. And it would, oh my God.
The what?
It would upset the apple cart.
I don't know what that means. I don't know what that
upset the apple cart. It's an old saying. Because I'm just showing my fucking age, that's all.
Okay, I'm sorry. I just wasn't.
I'm talking like a pop over here.
I'm sitting with Grandpa on his lap over here.
Back in the day, Sonny.
Yeah, exactly. Sonny Jeb, let me tell you something. I used to walk 22 miles to school.
Uphill both ways. My house would move every week further up the hill.
No, I get what you're saying. I think, I think kind of going back to what you're saying, like we don't teach this stuff at school, so we don't, so we kind of have to fumble over this stuff and hopefully gain some insight and learn from our mistakes and then grow that way. But
we can hope.
Well, here's the thing that I want to say, just because it's kind of relevant right now in my life, is that I think school can actually have adverse effects on it too. Whereas if you do something that's, there's no question. If you do something that's bad or wrong, sure, let's have some discipline and growth. Okay, let's show some compassion and support so we can move forward. But no, what we do is punish and then try to indoctrinate the person into saying, this is you can't do. Don't question why. Don't do this. Don't do that. And do this.
Well, isn't that the whole judicial system?
Could be.
In a lot of ways. I mean, it's not just there. I mean, it goes across to a lot of things.
Right, but I'm saying maybe because it's in schools, that's why it's in now there. You know what I mean? Like if we teach them better in schools, I think you'd have less.
I'll be honest with you. I see it differently. I'm not arguing your point whatsoever, but what I see is I see a system that literally wants to punish everyone for anything. And everybody gets caught in that. Doesn't matter. Now, there are levels to which you should be punished.
Yeah.
Because there are things that, guess what? I don't give a fuck how old you are. You need to be punished. You need discipline. And now, is discipline sticking somebody in a fucking room?
Right.
No, not necessarily. Not necessarily. But there has to be a way. And obviously, everything that we've done up to this point is not working. It's not working at all.
Right.
Because there wouldn't be podcasts like ours if it was. And there wouldn't be the unrest that we have if things were actually working to the benefit of people. Because it's not about people. It's about a lot more than that. It's about control. It's about power. It's about...
Yeah, but I feel like all around, we'd be better off if this stuff was in schools and we taught kids this.
Well, we would, but that takes change. And we already know this. Yeah, it takes generations to change stuff.
Absolutely.
And I'm watching in real time what the progression of years and the repression of trying to keep that from happening is doing, and it's not good.
Well, no, but I will say, and I think it depends on where you are, what you're seeing, because
it depends on.
All I'm saying is that there is a health class in the school district that I'm in, and the teacher is main thing in health is mental health. They have a speaker coming in. They talk about suicide awareness with teens and stuff. So there is some steps forward.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. But there's still not enough counselors.
Oh, there's still not.
So
but we one step at a time. Again, one step at a time. I'd rather a little step, baby step, crawling than not. And not going back.
Well, the problem is that baby steps wind up getting us incrementally further, but then we don't take baby steps back. We yank the chain back.
Sure.
Because that's what's going on. Yeah. Like, we want to go back to this fake fucking time of, whatever. I don't want to get into this because it'll shift. No, not emotions. It'll just shift the conversation.
I'm saying back to emotions as what.
Well, it'll just get it'll talk about emotions. It's just that,
So let me ask you this. We don't have to talk about that particular thing that we were just talking about, but like when you talk about something like that maybe you're passionate about, and you have this rush of emotions that comes through, right? Can you? Let me ask you, do you do anything, or can you do anything to...
Real time. Like, I try to breathe through it,
okay,
and I try to bring myself down. I'm getting better at it.
Okay.
I had no check on these things for many years. Many years.
Yeah.
Many years.
Look, I had no governor, for sure.
Yeah, the governor was gone.
In fact, I probably... excuse me. I probably was doing things... even worse than no governor, because I think I was stuck in some dysfunctional ways that I didn't realize were that dysfunctional.
Yeah, well, yeah, absolutely. And then again, like I don't necessarily know if it's that we don't know they're dysfunctional. For me, it's I didn't quite know how to fix the dysfunction. Like, fair. Yes, okay, people tell me, oh, well, go get medicine, go get therapy, go do this. But again, until the person is ready to do something, the person isn't going to do it. And then the person is going to dig their heels in even further. And it's going to become this whole other tug and pull of just more stuff.
Yeah.
But it is, again, though, it's a practice. And I try to do this because the only time that you can actually do this is when it's happening. And that's what presence is. Mm-hmm. And I never realized how much I was not present. I haven't, it's unfortunately.
So do you think that now that you notice that, do you think when you're being more present, that helps?
Yes. Being more present helps. Being more present helps me to how I'm feeling, and being more present allows me to offer a person-centered approach to somebody else that I'm working with. Because the thing is that, like, dude, I'm not gonna affect anything for anybody. I'm not going to affect anything for anybody. They have to want to do it themselves.
Right.
What I am is an example.
Right.
That's all I am.
Well, that's what we do, I think, here, is we plant seeds.
Yes, we plant seeds. We plant the pumpkin seeds and hope that the great pumpkin arises and brings us presents on Halloween.
Yay!
And I mean presents as PRENC, right? Present. I can't spell tonight. Presence. Yes, there we go.
Yeah, it's all right. We're
That's all
winging
right.
it here, folks. We're winging it. All right.
Yeah, well, that's
But
flying without a net, brother. That's what life is. Flying without a net.
Real time, as Will says. Real
Yes,
time.
real time.
Real time is Will's word tonight, ladies and
Yes.
gentlemen. Real time.
In real time.
Well, I mean, real time, so again, planting seeds, I think, again, looking at that as acceptance, that's what, what we can do. We're accepting the fact that people are going to do what they want and change if they want, when they want. So the only thing we can do is go, you know what, that's fair, and I accept that, but I'm still going to plant the seed. I'm not going to push you. I'm not going to do anything to, maybe not even encourage you, but I'm going to lay this stuff out there.
Oh, I encourage. I try to exemplify, and I try to relate. And I'm straight up with people, man.
I think that's how you have to be, man.
Well, dude,
I think that's the best approach, personally, but people get, touchy.
The individuals that I work with during the day now, I'm not blowing smoke up their asses.
You can't really.
You can't. No, you can't, dude. You can't. You cannot. You cannot, because, again, everyone has a story. Everyone has things that have carved out their entire feeling structure, emotional baggage, and everything else that comes with it. And the one thing about people who come from certain parts of the outside world, whether you come from an incarceration situation or come out of long-term hospitalization. I'm not talking about intensive outpatient where you're going to a program every day and going home at night. I'm talking about people who stay in a facility. Those types of individuals have already been through all this, so it makes it very hard to reshape patterns. So you have to find ways to relate and try to insert yourself as little as possible, but get as much out of them as possible. And it's difficult because some people don't have the awareness and the acceptance to understand why they are where they are. And then as a peer, as us, I understand that, because I do understand where a certain part of that strips away your ability to actually have any feelings at all. Because just because you may be mad about something that's just completely normal for you and I, but for an individual like this, it's a fucking code. But again, it comes down to being able to manage emotions and having the ability to do that, and the willingness. Because again, this is all about willingness. You have to be willing to do this.
And I think you have to be willing to sit. When I say sit,
you have to be willing to sit with difficult things,
with the difficult emotions, and be uncomfortable, because it's like you're not going to experience it any other way. You can, I know we were talking about real time, but I feel like
that is real time. You have to do it in real time.
But I'm saying, but I feel like you can also, if, let's say you keep tripping over the same hurdle, and you go home and you're having this insight about it, and you're like, that fucking hurdle, every time so-and-so happens, this happens. So you can kind of think on it, and you can kind of, I don't know if it would be setting an intention of next time this happens, I want to try to be aware of it and aware of what I'm feeling, so that way X, Y, and Z doesn't happen after.
I love the intention part, but again,
I know, I'm just saying
that. I hate to use a fucking cliche, but the road to hell is paved with good intentions. You can have all the intention you want, but unless you actually put it into use.
Well,
but intention is a good start.
With what I said before, intention without action is just intention.
And intention does nothing.
Right. So you need both. But I'm saying, I'm thinking steps. You know what I mean? It's
I get it.
Some things we need to dive right in head first, because especially if it's something like a process that we have to get into, because a lot of the resistance we're going to feel is because it's in the beginning and it's the whole starting. Once you start the process, it's going to suck. But I feel like once you get over that first hurdle of starting, then you're in, you're like, okay, well, I'm here. I'm going to At least try and continue. I think a lot of the hardest part is just starting it.
A lot of our problems is just starting. I do think, though, it does take a certain amount of strength to keep going.
Sure.
And it's very easy to stop and start, though.
Sure.
And then you can have as much strength as you want.
But I think you can stop, take a break, as long as you keep starting eventually. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you have to eventually start up again.
Absolutely.
You can't stay in the same place.
Yes. You don't want to stay stagnant.
You don't want to stay stagnant because stagnance creates
dirty
disease.
Water that stinks.
That's right.
Boom. It's a mic drop.
Timmy's patting himself on the back. Actually, on the ass.
You got it. That's it. Sometimes
he's patting himself on the ass.
Yes.
Yeah.
Don't tell everybody that. My butt cheeks look like St. Nick's cheeks. Face cheeks.
Yeah, they look like Kurt Russell's. You got Kurt Russell butt cheeks.
So yeah, I mean, if you do you have any other tips or suggestions for handling? Because you had said try to be in the present.
Being in the presence, yes. And the biggest way to check your presence is to pay attention to your breath. Like literally just sit at your desk if you're listening to this at work or wherever you are and just sit with your eyes closed for a moment. And breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. And right there, that is reality. Like you don't have to think about doing that. Your body does that for you naturally. But what you do by paying attention to that is you bring presence to yourself.
Right.
And by paying attention to that breath, it is very grounding. And it's also very illuminating to the rest of how you feel. And that's what it's really about. And we've talked about this. I mean, like I'm staring over at Timmy. I'm looking at his book. I'm like, fuck, it's almost 2023 and we've been doing this for almost 4 years.
Has it been almost 4?
It's almost 4 years. It'll be 4 years next year
I was thinking 3 for some reason.
That we did this. 19.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because 20. All right. Yep.
And the ability to sit and just pay attention to your breath will bring up every single thought about grocery list, about getting the kids to practice, picking up the kids from school. Oh my God, that report's due at work. But that is what you are supposed to not. That's why I ask you to pay attention to your breath.
Right.
Because your breath will bring you back to now.
Because
none of those things matter at that moment.
Which is extremely hard. But I think one thing you can do, I don't think there's this, fancy thing where you have to get the yoga pants and sit in a certain position. It's more of redirecting your awareness, because
you don't have to sit at all.
Your awareness is, like Will said, if your awareness is on your breath, okay, you're breathing in and then you're like, oh, I got to do laundry. I got to pick up this. All right, that's fine. Don't get mad at yourself. Don't judge yourself. Just stop and go, I'm going to refocus my awareness and redirect it onto my breath.
Because that is what meditation is. Meditation is not emptying your mind of no thoughts.
Right.
It's actually allowing the thoughts to come in and go out like the tide. The waves come in, they go out.
You can always practice, like if you have like a hard candy, like a lifesaver or something like that, just sit down for a second or stand, whatever, but just be still somehow with the mind and open it up and put it in your mouth and just focus on what you're doing and be like, all right, so the wrapper made a little sound. Now I'm sucking on it and it's hard. Now I'm getting like a certain flavor of fruity or whatever it is. And just kind of, it helps you to stay in that moment and to kind of.
And presence is being in the moment.
Right. Yep.
That's what it's all about. So stay in the moment.
Yeah.
Please.
And until next moment, get well, be safe.
Stay above.
You heard it here. Tune in next week. We're ready. Thank you for giving us a listen. New episodes every Wednesday. If you listen on Apple Podcasts, you can share, rate, review, and even subscribe so you'll never miss an episode. Other ways to support the show: follow us on social media, share the content, share our episodes. You can also buy us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/abovegroundpod. For further concerns, show ideas, or just to say hi, you can email us at abovegroundpodcast@gmail. Once again, thank you for listening and supporting mental health. Keep the conversation going and stay above.